All right, today is October 11, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public and recorded and published on YouTube. This is our agenda doc. It's linked in the calendar invite. Feel free to add any items to it, specifically any PRs that need attention or design reviews or anything else that you'd like to discuss. Today on the agenda, first up, we have Aish. Am I pronouncing that right?
That's right.
Aish from Sig Release to say a few words to us. Go ahead.
Hi. So basically, I just wanted to drop by and introduce myself for folks who haven't, for whom I haven't introduced before. So I'm the 113 release lead, and we are basically meeting up with different SIGs to talk a little bit about the timeline of the release itself, and we are currently in the enhancement collection phase, and so discuss a little bit about what each SIG is planning for the feature load for 113 itself. So 113 is like a super short release. By now, I'm hoping most of you would have seen the schedule itself. Code freeze is on 11/15, and we are planning to release by 12/3 before the Seattle KubeCon. So which basically just leaves us about 6 weeks or so for development itself. That is code, testing, and docs to wrangle all of them in. So, so we started the enhancement collection on Monday, and currently we are seeing close to 11 enhancements on storage. So given that it's a super short release, I just wanted to get a sense of how you feel regarding the sense of confidence for all these features to get into 113. And if not, just encouraging the SIG to make a call by enhancement freeze, which is the 23rd of October.
Yeah, that's good. Good feedback. I think our biggest goal this quarter is to try and get CSI to 1.0. And then there's a number of other features that have been pending that we want to kind of move towards beta or GA. What we're going to do is reassess as we get closer to the 23rd how many of these we're actually going to be able to land within time.
Yeah.
Prioritize and cut the ones that we can't, and focus on the items that are absolutely critical to get us to CSI 1.0.
Yeah, that'll be great. And along the way, if you could, I know Kendrick had left a comment. Kendrick is our enhancements lead, so I think he's left a comment on most of this issues, asking for what is pending, if it is graduating, like is it test or code or docs. If the feature owners could leave that information there, that'll be super useful for us.
Yeah, if you have any of these feature issues assigned to you, please take a look at them and respond to any comments there.
Cool. That's all. I wanted to just drop by and say hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next step is our Q4 1.13 updates. So we're going to go over the planning spreadsheet for the items that we have tracked. Again, this is a much shorter quarter than usual, so if you feel like you're not going to be able to finish an item within time, it's okay to get it punted to the next quarter. So let's do a quick status review and get any updates from folks. First up, for CSI, we have block volume support moving to beta. Vlad, are you on track for this?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
That certainly looks like it's going to happen.
Cool. Is there any work already started on it?
There's a PR pending. Somebody, I can't remember the name. He's doing some refactoring, which is based on the port of RDB CSI plugin for block. So I'm using that as the basis for anything that needs to be fixed. So I've been working on that with him and or her. I'm not even sure. That will be the basis. And then I also have Chris testing some stuff as well to make sure that everything looks good. Awesome. So we can switch it to beta.
Cool. Thanks, Vlad. So we're going to skip over the CSI drivers and get a status update on those at the end of the quarter. I spoke with some folks from the VMware team, and it looks like they're targeting the December timeframe. CSI library, moving the mount library from core Kubernetes to an external common repo. Travis, any updates on this?
Yeah, I've gotten some feedback on the PR that is open that I need to incorporate right now. So it is definitely started. And I have much more bandwidth to work on this now because I have been pretty slow on it. So apologies for that, but it has my attention and I'm heading towards the next steps.
Awesome. Could you paste the PR in this column over here?
Yeah, I thought I had done that before, but yeah, I will do so.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up is a pluggable end-to-end test framework, something that is being led by Patrick. Patrick, are you on the line by any chance? Brad, do you happen to know the status on this?
Well, so Methusen's been working on this, and yeah, I mean he's digging in, cracking into it right now. I don't think we have a design doc yet.
Okay.
But it's definitely in progress.
Cool. Do you want to call this alpha or design for this quarter?
We can call it design. Our ambition is to actually have some work done, though.
Okay.
And actually, I'm also doing some work in this area as well to refactor some of the tests that we have, and I think we're planning on using the Pvc driver as a guinea pig to test out some of this.
Okay, that would be excellent. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Mathusen and Brad, for the updates on that. Next up is the Kubernetes conformance process. Starting to implement that. Sri?
Yeah, hi, this is Srini. Actually, I haven't made any progress on this yet. I have to get started. I promise that I'll get going.
No problem. Thank you. Next up is provisioning capacity reporting for generic topology, which is required for local volume dynamic provisioning. Michelle, any updates on this one?
Yeah, we've just been sort of brainstorming some ideas on possible designs. We have like two basic designs. One is like generic that can work across many different kinds of topologies, but it's pretty complicated and involved. We're also trying to consider possible designs that might only be limited to local volumes, as right now we don't really have use cases for other volume types.
Got it. Okay, and the goal this quarter is just to design it, so it sounds like it's on track. Next up is CSI external containers moving leader election to the lease object. This is a recommendation from Jordan. Matt, any updates on this? Brad, do you happen to know if Matt's working on this?
Yes, he is working on this.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up is subpath expansion. This is a P3. Kev Taylor mentioned he was going to work on it.
Yeah, he actually has a, he wrote up a little proposal for it. I have not been great at finding time to review it, but I will try to do that sometime this week.
Okay. And if anyone else is interested in helping review that proposal, feel free. Next up is a CSI driver. We're going to ignore that. Then we've got the iSCSI common library moving towards GA. John, any updates on this? Is John Griffith on the line? Or is Ben on the line by any chance and able to give an update?
I'm here.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, yeah, sorry I missed this part of the meeting last week. I had a conflict. So I've reviewed this, and it will work. I think to get it to the state where a lot of drivers will want to use it, we need, it'll need to get a lot of features and testing. So my concern with this was, without a good regime for testing it, I'm kind of scared to just start throwing PRs at it to try to add the features that I think are missing. So, but I mean, as a baseline, it's a good starting point. It captures almost all of what Cubelet currently does. I only noted a couple omissions, and I'd be happy to write the PRs to do those. But you know, we kind of need to get it launched and get a testing regime in place.
Okay, so maybe we get those initial PRs merged and then focus on getting some sort of testing framework going, and then from then on start focusing on feature improvements.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Okay, seems reasonable.
Hi, this is Shane, and in fact, I have take a look at that PR and realize that the way it's using, you have to require share the network namespace with the host. Otherwise, you cannot run the iSCSI admin per container. So, is that desired, or?
Well, it's that kind of thing isn't desired, but I've never found someone that had a good workaround for it. So if you can find a way to do it without that requirement,
yeah, in fact,
share it.
Yeah, well, we are working on Longhorn. We spent quite some time and try to work around this, and yeah, in the end, we use NS Enter to get to the host namespace and ask user. So first, we require user to install the iSCSI admin on the host instead of we install in the container. And second, we use NS Enter to switch namespace back to use that binary on the host. So then multiple containers can share the library.
Yeah, NetApp does something similar. We actually have a shared mount, and we just root into the shared mount and run everything from there. So yeah. some sort of scheme like that is required because there's no way to do everything iSCSI needs inside of a container.
Yes, and also we cannot install the iSCSI D and iSCSI admin inside the container because basically the kernel names, the netlink used by the iSCSI admin to talk to the iSCSI D doesn't support namespace yet in the kernel part, so you can only run one instance of iSCSI D in one node. So we prefer that one to be on the host rather than running on the container.
Okay, so maybe take that feedback to the PR and possibly not a blocker for the initial PR, but a follow-up enhancement.
Yeah, I already commented the PR on that.
Perfect.
Have you guys documented those issues?
I was going to say we should document how to use the library so that when people use it, they understand all the other requirements that are necessary for the environment to successfully use the library.
We would like to, if possible, if we have to change, propose changes to the kernel or whatever to get this something that can run in a container, we'd like to do that.
Yeah, but
you would need big changes.
Kernel, you wait for probably 2 years to get to the mainstream.
I don't think the kernel is the problem. I think it's the user space tools, both the iSCSI daemon and there's also the multipath daemon. Don't forget that one.
Yeah, I think the kernel is a problem. I have referred to one, if you see my comments on that PR, I have referred to one link back to another one Google group discussion about this issue, and it's the kernel. I think it's the kernel thing because that somebody confirmed that, and I also try to look into the kernel code to see that. I think it's the kernel.
Well, we should have a plan to pursue making things better, but in the immediate term, the strategy is you run the daemons on the host and you play games with the container to connect back to the daemons on the host.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the only thing that works.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, our ultimate goal, right, is to get all those drivers containerized. Just because we have read-only hosts now and stuff like that. And I'm going to say that this is going to be one of the few that we can't containerize, which is going to make it a little bit awkward. But that's fine.
Those drivers can be containerized just fine. It's just they have to have access to the host daemon. Like that's the big issue. Like everything else can be containerized.
What happens if the daemon runs in a container?
You just have to kill the host daemon.
Yeah,
Like,
so
if you
you
run the daemon, you can run the daemon in the container, and there are examples out there of how to do it, but you can't run that with the host also running the daemon.
Okay. So we could shut off the host daemon and then just run it in the container if we had to.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Well,
And the,
I don't know that's feasible because the Ubuntu ship with the iSCSI Open iSCSI pre-installed in the OS servers, and I think it's more feasible to require user to install it on.
we need to document what actually works and what the deployment options are.
Yeah.
There are many ways to do it. They're all ugly.
Yeah, I agree that they're not very pretty, and the containers that are running, like say you do run an iSCSI in a container, it requires it's almost like running it on the host. It has to have so much access.
We should also be cognizant of the fact that multiple plugins can run on the same host, and they cannot each load the daemons independently. So that's another thing to factor.
Yeah, the daemon would have to be running its own separate container from any of the plugins, and then the plugins would be running their own versions of, or their own iSCSI ADM, or at least accessing the host's iSCSI ADM, depending on how you want to do that. But all of those iSCSI ADMs or tooling then access the singular daemon.
Yep.
One point of feedback: are we okay calling this GA, or should we change this to like alpha or beta or something? Sounds like this.
Yeah, look at it or something until we have these other issues lined out.
I would not call it GA. I'd call it alpha. I mean, you want people to start using it and giving feedback.
Yeah. I agree. Anybody disagree?
No, alpha makes sense to me.
Okay. All right, and let's take these issues to the actual PR and the repo. There's a separate new repo for iSCSI common under Kubernetes-Csi, so feel free to open new issues there and carry on the discussion there. Next up is the CSI spec. We're going to try and add dynamic max capacity per plugin per pod. Per plugin per node count. This is work that Hemant is leading along with volume expansion. Hemant, do you want to give an update on this?
I'll open a PR for the max capacity for the CSI. I have updated the PR for obviously for the volume expansion. Currently, the CSI volume expansion is stuck in basically a wording like whether to call it like online is only for controller expansion, or is it like also covers like volume that are attached to the node via some sort of like node publish or node stage like iSCSI. So it's basically a wording thing that I need to sort out for volume expansion.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Hemant. The CSI drivers I'm going to skip over and talk about beginning implementing the migration of the entry driver to CSI. David, are you on the line?
I can give a quick status. This is Deep.
That'd be great.
So we started, I think David started on getting the translation library set up. So that's going to be like a foundation for the rest of the components. And we have kind of like a weekly sync setup to kind of go over the rest of the items around external provisioner and the attacher, detacher, and so forth. So the translation library is meant to do the necessary translations between the entry data structures and the CSI ones.
Okay, that makes sense. Considering the scale of this work, I imagine this might be one of the items that we end up slipping. All right, and if you're not speaking, please mute your mic.
I think, is there also a feature issue for this? I didn't see it in the list earlier that the release team was tracking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, you're looking, Saad, for CSI to GA, we don't really plan on moving any of the plugins out of tree for 113, right? We're just going to have the GA. Okay.
Yes, for CSI GA, it's just independent of the migration, getting the actual mechanism for CSI in place.
Because I imagine it's going to be a multi-step process, right? Even when we release a CSI driver, we'll have to let that sit out there for an alpha, beta, and then look at actually migrating it probably one by one.
Yep, that's the plan. Next up is CSI external provisioner topology support for Kubernetes to CSI. This is work, again, Deep is working on with Chang. Deep, do you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, it's been started. We have identified about 3 or 4 sort of well scoped out items. They include things like making sure the stateful set deployments are well spread out through everything as it's done in the entry, as well as a couple of things around using informers for the CSI node info objects and things like that. So they have been scoped out. I'm working on the first one, should have a PR up by hopefully end of week.
Cool, thank you, Deep.
Sure.
Next up, CSI driver update, add fiber channel driver to use library. Is this still work that's going on?
Yeah, it's for the fiber channel driver, but I haven't really been looking at it because I started looking into the E2E framework stuff.
Okay.
But for the fiber channel libraries, I think I'll make a PR to get it moved into the Kubernetes CSI repo that was just made recently.
Cool. So that's the second item here is the fiber channel common library. So you're saying that it doesn't need a permanent home now. So the repo is created and PR needs to be created against repo. Once that's done, do you want to also update the fiber channel driver to use the library this quarter?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'll leave both of those there. Next up is how to test these different fiber channel libraries or these drivers that we have, fiber channel iSCSI and the libraries, NFS, iSCSI, fiber channel. I think this goes back to what Ben was mentioning. We have these libraries. How do we actually test them? I think that'll be an important next question. Any updates on this from either Brad or Ben?
So this goes into the work Methuselah is doing to break out some of the end-to-end testing. There's like 15 pieces, I think, that, that'll make up this one particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in progress. I mean, we intend to have something out, I don't know, in the 113. We'll definitely have the refactoring done, and then we're going to start looking at some more end-to-end tests. And I wonder if we should get rid of like the testing of the fiber channel iSCSI NFS in tree libraries and just do the CSI pieces of this.
We don't want to have regressions on the in-tree stuff, so you can't test them. But yeah, I please invite me to any meetings you have on this subject. But I think once we have tests you can run externally end-to-end test, it'll just be a matter of doing some ordinary Kubernetes end-to-end testing using a driver that includes one of these libraries.
Yeah.
Make sure that you exercise all the bits, and if it works, that's a pretty good regression test.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Okay, I'll set up a call next Tuesday of next week if that's okay, Ben, to talk about this.
Yeah, as long as it's not at noon Eastern.
Okay.
All right, cool. Next up is Flex resizing support. This PR was already pending last quarter, so it should be pretty close to getting merged. Any update on this?
So, Aniket here. I spoke to Hemant and Chakri via Slack. Both of them indicated that they would review it this week. So I don't know if Hemant or Chakri are on the call. Is that still okay, or?
Yeah, that seems reasonable. We've got plenty of time, so.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Online volume expansion to beta. Hemant and Matt, is this still something that you plan to do?
Yeah, I think the PR just missed by a whisker. Actually, there's already a PR open, so we just need to like maybe rebase it. But Matthew, you're there, right?
Cool. So it sounds like most of that is just done and needs to, PR just needs to be reviewed. Next up is node shutdown, node failure handling, pod not deleted when shut down, reducing recovery time. Big issue. Jing or Yasin, any updates on this?
So I'm currently like start working on some proposal, and I think I will contact Yassi and Nick to like about the proposal, and then we can share with the SIG storage. Yeah.
Okay.
So we also need a feature for this, or this is more or less like
No, you can consider this bug level.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it depends on what the actual proposal ends up being, but
Right.
you can get away with calling this bug level.
Okay.
But there is apparently already a feature, so.
Oh, okay.
This feature. Okay, so there's already a feature here that we could potentially reuse if we decide that we still want to do this taint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good then. Yeah, I will like start working on the proposal. Yeah.
Okay. If you intend to use this, please make sure to mark it as 113.
Okay.
Because currently it's marked 112. All right, next up is bringing topology to GA. Michelle?
Yeah, so I think the main work that's needed left is just to add a few more test cases. Other than that, it should be ready to go.
Cool. And local PVs?
This one, I'm less inclined to move to GA.
Okay.
I think there's still some questions about overall life cycle. So I would be open to having another round, another release of more feedback on the
So let's go
usage.
ahead and just cut it for this quarter then, considering it is a fairly short quarter. Could you update 121 to move it to next quarter?
Yeah, I think it's
already there. Oops. Okay, cool. Next up is revisit design for local attach limits. I think there was, Tim had some concerns about this design. I think we discussed this with him offline, and he was interested in making this more generic. Any updates on this from either Hemant or Michelle?
No, I think we need to maybe bring this to SIG scheduling and get their input actually, because anything we do for the general, like the resource counting, will have to go to them.
Okay. And I think the proposal that we came up with, Michelle had further discussions with Jan on it, and it sounded like that was not going to work either. So we'll need to think through what we want to do here. All right, thank you. Can you please mute if you're not speaking? And next up is volume attach limits integration for delayed binding. Deep, any updates?
Yeah,
on
that's kind of tied to the item above, so it's probably not going to be done in this quarter because we want the design to be fixed up a little more.
Okay. Are we safe to just cut it for this quarter then?
I think so.
Okay.
Right, Michelle?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll go ahead and do that. And then can someone update 554 to ensure it's not in 113? Continue working on snapshots. Shing, do you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, sure. We have PRs on deletion policy and admission webhook for the default snapshot class. Those are in reviews. And we also have a CSI spec on topology for snapshot that is also being reviewed. And the finalizer is work in progress. So there are 3 finalizers. The first 2 are on volume snapshot and volume snapshot content. So those will be added to the snapshot controller. And then the third one, we want to add that on the volume, so probably PVC. When we delete the PVC, we want to check whether there's a snapshot being created from that. I'm wondering whether we should add that to the external storage controller, because it seems like the controller under external storage is the right place for adding that. But that means external storage will be dependent on volume snapshot, the external snapshot, which seems to be weird. So I was wondering.
Okay, let's take that up in the CSI meeting and talk about it there.
Sure.
But it looks like solid progress here.
Just one thing is resource code won't be able to get in, because it depends on that CRD resource code.
Got it. That's okay. I think there's still solid progress being made there. Next up is automated end-to-end testing of the CSI sidecar containers before release, both major and minor. Patrick is looking into this, and he's not on the line to give us a status update, so we'll get that from him next time.
This is also something that we plan to do for the PD CSI driver. But I guess this item is more about testing like mock drivers.
Right, right.
When was the last time we saw Patrick? I want to say it's been like 4 SIGs.
He shows up to the CSI meetings.
Okay.
I think his time zone is different. Next up is moving the CSI spec to 1.0. This is still on target. Next up is moving CSI persistent volume source and volume attachment objects to V1. Is Jean on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. I started. Awesome. And the question is, what should I do about the CSI persistent volume source? Because this is in core V1. So there is nothing to do about it, I think.
I think there might be a comment on there, if I remember correctly, that says it's beta. Other than that,
I will check it.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and check it. But yeah, beyond that, nothing. That's easy. Next up is the Cubelet device plugin registration mechanism. So Vlad, I think we need to get the conversation going here with the device plugin folks and make sure this is on their agenda
right.
for Q4. Let's get this going ASAP.
Okay.
Because it kind of depends on outside of this group, and we want to make sure it's on their roadmap.
Absolutely. I'll follow up with them.
Cool. Thank you. Next up is the CRD installation mechanism. We have a number of new CRDs that the core is going to depend on the CSI driver object and the CSI node info object. In the alpha releases that last quarter, these objects, the CRDs for them need to be manually installed. That's inconvenient. We want this to be automatically installed. The feedback from API machinery was do not use the controllers to install this. This quarter, to unblock ourselves, what we're going to do is use the add-on manager to pre-install the CRDs. We went to API machinery yesterday to ask for feedback on what the best way to resolve this was, and they said to follow up with SIG cluster lifecycle. So I have something on the agenda with SIG cluster lifecycle in their next meeting to discuss this. In the meantime, I'm going to pursue installation with the add-on manager, and that should be sufficient to unblock us, and whatever SIG cluster lifecycle decides to do can be the long-term solution. There's also a number of issues that come up with using a CRD in the core, including things like race conditions if the CRD is not installed, in things like the informer, what happens if the CRD is deleted while it's in use, things like that. And the recommendation from API machinery was if anything is not behaving as intended, please file bugs against API machinery and they will look at them and help fix them. But in general, their feedback is that the components that consume these CRDs should gracefully handle the non-existence of the CRD, essentially treat it like a somebody flipping a flag to disable the feature. This becomes complicated for us because traditionally we make an assumption about whether a feature is enabled or disabled at the beginning of a binary initialization, and we don't expect that to flip-flop during runtime, whereas CRDs could potentially flop during runtime. They can get deleted, and we need to handle that gracefully on our end as much as possible. So that will continue, that work will continue. Next up is moving RBAC roles definition from Kubernetes to external repos. Luckily, Patrick has agreed to help with this as well. We're going to follow up with Jordan to ensure that we're okay deprecating the intrigue code. And if so, we're going to go ahead and move the role definitions to the external repos. Next up is moving the CSI driver and CSI node info objects from alpha to beta. This is blocked on the CRD installation mechanism, so no update there. Next up is implementing CSI pod inline volume support. Vlad, I think the PR that you have, you are starting to move forward.
Yeah, I've started to move forward. And my plan is to get everything stable this week and have a start moving toward creating a demo so I can finalize the PR and start having review as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. And in terms of priority, this is definitely a P2 compared to the Cubelet device plugin registration mechanism. That's going to be a blocker for CSI for 1.0, so let's make sure to get that unblocked as soon as possible.
Got it.
Next up is Pvc Namespace Transfer, targeting alpha. John, I don't think is on the line. Does anybody know the status of this? Okay, we'll get a status update hopefully next time. Next is data population supporting data sources, other data sources other than snapshots for cloning. We'll follow up with John on that next time. Both of these are P3. Ability to say, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So we've been working on that and testing things out for the transfer. There's a possibility that we can just update the claim ref to move it to a new namespace and PVC in the other namespace. So John was going to submit that since I broke my GitHub account and had to open a new one. But we will get that at least on the calendar so everyone can start reviewing it.
That'd be great. All right, cool. So it looks like this work to do the namespace transfer is in progress and possibly a PR soon.
And I did talk with Jordan separately about it to make sure what we did would be acceptable from a security standpoint.
Okay. And he was
those
okay
are
with it?
in there. Yep. He kind of had like 4 criteria that he felt like needed to be met. So we made sure that it tracked against that. So
nice.
Is
All right,
there
cool.
a design doc for that?
we just have a Google Doc. We need to reopen a PR. I switched computers and didn't disable my 2-factor authentication with GitHub, and now I have to open a brand new account. So John was going to go ahead and just submit it with his GitHub ID. But I'll circle back with him by the end of the week and see, if we can get a PR out there sooner than later.
Yeah, if we can get the PR and the design doc, that way folks can start taking a look at it, that'd be great. Next up is the ability to set UID on volumes in addition to GID. Hemant, I think you're tracking this. Any updates?
Sorry, what was the?
UID, GID.
I haven't started on it yet, actually.
Okay, no worries. And then we've got a couple of bug fixes here. CSI sidecar container splitting up driver registrar into separate repos. I don't know if Luis is on the line. Luis? So I don't think he started work on this yet from my latest meetings with him. Improving dependency injection for volume plugins. Does anybody have a status update on this or a summary of what it is? I think I might have missed it. Take a look at this real quick. Okay. Okay. This is, I think, cleanup for Kubernetes volume code. So good to do. Chang, are you on the line?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, just general cleanup for, like, there is a lot of, I guess, annoyances that comes with the current, like, a lot of the dependencies are injected into plugins through the volume host interface. And for example, like every plugin is expected to check nil its own code, which is more error prone. If there is one generic way to, and the other issue is that there's no good way to see which plugin depends on what, and I don't think every single plugin depends on every single one of those items in the volume host interface.
Volume host is a really, really bad piece of code. I think there's been multiple bugs open to clean that up for a long time. I don't think we've gotten to it. If anyone's interested in working on that, let me know. But considering it's a short quarter, might not be the wisest use of time for this. Currently, it's unassigned, but if you're interested, please speak up. Next up is mount options for CSI.
Yeah, this is work I did back in 1.12, and then I got stuck on the dependency stuff, and so it didn't make the deadline. But I just need to write the unit tests. This is essential for NFS. You can't really do NFS well without mount options, so I'll get mount options into the sidecar and into the Kubernetes CSI driver, mount option support. There's actually 2 PRs here. I'll dig up the other one.
Okay, and this is all code that's going to go into external?
This PR, yeah, goes into the external provisioner, and then there's a very, like, a one-line change to Kubernetes itself to say, yes, we support mount options in CSI.
Got it.
Also, I think we are not passing the mount options.
Yeah. So my PR will fix that.
Okay.
I haven't pushed the latest version, so this is an old one, but
perfect.
I'll fix the mount options.
Cool. Hamad, can you review this code?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. All right. So we have a lot that we're doing in a very short amount of time. Code freeze is a little over a month away. The 23rd, as Ash mentioned, was the date that we need to officially finalize on the feature repo, what we're committing to for this quarter. So when we have our next meeting, let's reassess what we think we can make in this quarter and what we can't. It's okay to say that the quarter is too short and that we don't have time for a specific feature. Let's focus on delivering quality rather than trying to get quantity of features in. And that's all that I have today. It doesn't look like there's any PRs or designs that need attention at the moment. Anything anybody else wants to discuss or bring up?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So for the CSI driver release for 1.13, do we need to create a issue in the Kubernetes/features? So that I don't see any drivers being tracked there.
Yeah, no, the drivers are just going to be tracked internally within the SIG. Essentially, they are external to the core of Kubernetes, so they don't need to be tracked in Kubernetes features.
Gotcha, thanks.
Cool. Anything else? Let me take a quick look at the chat window. Okay, I think we are good. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll reconvene in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.